The narrative takes place in 10191. Now that they have discovered many of the universe's mysteries, humans are able to travel between planets. A single Padisha emperor named Shaddam Khurrano IV rules over several planets that have evolved into distinct nations. Each planet has a house with corresponding dukes that obey Shaddam's commands. The planet Arrakis is one such planet. This planet is a harsh desert where the only place to find the rare material known as spice. Spice is an essential ingredient for interstellar travel and a useful element that prolongs human longevity. As a result, Arrakis is regarded as the most valuable planet in the known cosmos, despite its difficult circumstances. The noble houses are keen to govern the world as a result. The movie opens with Chani, an Arrakis native, telling the story of how the noble House Harkonnen has dominated them for a very long time. Arrakis's indigenous people suffer at the hands of the ruthless House Harkonnen, but the impoverished locals are powerless to oppose the Emperor Shaddam's household. Additionally, Chani claims that the troops of House Harkonnen abruptly depart Arrakis one day. However, she is certain that the Emperor would designate another person to supplant them and take use of their assets. Next, the action shifts to Caladan, a different planet under House Atreides' control. Paul, the Atreides prince, awakens from a reoccurring dream. He has breakfast with Lady Jessica, his mother, who belongs to the Bene Gesserit group. Members of the secretive sisterhood Bene Gesserit possess exceptional physical and mental skills. As a result, Jessica is also capable of mind control. Paul has been receiving long-term instruction from her in the organization's specialties. Paul thus possesses special abilities that he has not yet discovered in addition to his ability to see into the future. Leto, the father of Paul and the Duke of House Atreides, meets with members of the Landsraad, the legislative body that represents all of the noble houses, for a crucial discussion. Everyone in Atreides greets the VIPs who have arrived with a message from Emperor Shaddam himself in the evening. The Emperor desires Atreides to succeed House Harkonnen, as Harkonnen was recently banished from the Arrakis. He desires that the task of extracting the spice from Arrakis fall to Leto and his army. Despite his concerns, Duke Leto complies with the Emperor's demands. Jessica observes Gaius Helen Moayam, a representative of Bene Gesserit, glaring at Paul during the discussion. Leto seals the agreement to proceed to Arrakis by signing a seal with his ring, signaling the end of the meeting. The next scene shows Atreides' army getting ready to depart for Arrakis. One of the troop's bravest soldiers, Duncan, is also a personal friend of Paul's. Paul is concerned since he has been having visions concerning Duncan's passing in Arrakis. Duncan gives him his word that he would be all right and departs to get the planet ready for Paul and the family to arrive. In the scene that follows, Paul and his father, Leto, are shown conversing about a variety of topics. Leto discloses that he intends to make friends with the Fremen, a group of people from Arrakis, rather than using the spice to get rich. He intends to treat the Fremen with respect, in contrast to the previous Duke Harkonnen, so they can be a useful asset to Atreides. Later on, Paul practices a duel with Halleck, his associate. They have a wrist gadget that envelopes their body in a shield of defense. Halleck tells Paul to be cautious when they get to Arrakis because he fears the envious Harkonnen will attack them. In another instance, the Duke Baron and his rebellious nephew Rabban converse about their final ship departing Arrakis and handing up the planet to the Atreides in the home of Harkonnen, the erstwhile ruler of Arrakis. The Emperor is made fun of by Rabban for removing them from Arrakis and giving it to the Atreides. However, he is taken aback when Baron discloses that the Emperor is genuinely plotting the Atreides' demise out of jealousy over their rising fame. Leto and all of his soldiers are to be killed by the Emperor while they are mining spices in Arrakis. Jessica awakens. Paul up when they arrive back to the Caladan and drives him to the doctor to get his vital signs checked. As it happens, Paul's visions have reached to the attention of the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam, who want to confirm if Paul is the one they have been waiting for. He puts a lot of effort into passing the impulse control test that she gives him by forcing him to put his hands on a box. Following Mohiam's departure, Jessica informs Paul that Bene Gesserit, a female group, has been quietly influencing politics for years. In addition, they have been cautiously stepping outside of their family tree to conceive the one guy who will be able to protect Arrakis from being exploited for its spices. Paul turns out to be the one they have been searching for, the Messiah of Arrakis, according to the test he recently passed. Leto, Paul, Jessica, and their army set out for Arrakis and arrive on the planet the very following day. The local Fremen greet them warmly, having already been informed that Paul is their Messiah, a belief that Paul himself regards as mere superstition. Afterwards, he is in his chamber discovering the existence of a gigantic sandworm in Arrakis. The Fremen move erratically in the sand as protection from it. A nasty insect appears from a wall and tries to murder Paul while he watches holograms. However, Paul comes to his own rescue just in time. Upon closer inspection, it is discovered that Paul was the target of a Harkonnen soldier who had been lurking in the walls. When Baron meets Moyam, the scene changes. She is aware of the Emperor and Baron's scheme to harm Atreides, but she is unable to stop it as the Emperor has given the order. She does, however, beg Baron to spare Jessica and Paul's lives. Baron consents to follow her instructions but says he will toss the two into the sand to be killed by sandworms. The officials gather back on Arrakis and talk about their strategy for mining the spices. It is discovered that the Harkonnens have left them with defective gear, making things more likely for them to fail. Paul eventually meets up with Duncan, who was assigned to get ready for them. Duncan claims to have spent the last 4 weeks living in deserts among the Fremen. He gives them all the information they need to survive, including the existence of the Sietch community of Fremen and Stilgar, its leader. Leto has invited Stilgar as well. Leto invites him to collaborate with the Atreides, but Stilgar disparages him for stealing from their territory and not giving anything back to the local populace. Leto makes a pledge to never hurt the Sietches, so they part ways amicably. Leto and his group visit the spice sand that they will be mining the following day. They meet Dr. Liet Keynes, an Imperial environmentalist, and a Freeman. She examines the quality of Leto's sand suit, which purports to turn bodily fluids like sweat and urine back into drinkable water. Even though it's Paul's first time wearing the suit, Kynes discovers that he is familiar with Fremen's style while inspecting Paul's outfit. She is reminded by this of a prophecy that their Messiah will be familiar with their culture even if he is from another country. Kynes thinks Paul is the one as well. They all depart to examine the spice sand after that. As they go about, they notice 2 sandworms moving toward the harvester that extracts the spice. A carrier is dispatched to lift the harvester and place it out of the worm's reach, so it appears to be a common issue. But the carrier's anchor breaks, making it incapable of raising the equipment. The 21-person crew within the harvester is going to come under attack from the worms. Leto acts swiftly, giving the command for everyone to move their aircraft in closer proximity to the gadget and bring the crew on board. Minutes before the worm hits, they land in the sand and successfully rescue the crew. But in the process, Paul detects hints of spice and has a vision. He is still lightheaded when he gets home, and the doctor determines it's an allergy. Paul nevertheless asserts that he knew it wasn't only an allergy since he saw a Fremen girl in his vision. Additionally, he informs Jessica that she is expecting, but she brushes it off. After that, the action moves to the planet of the Imperial Army, where a battalion is getting ready to attack Atreides and murder Leto and his family. They go by the name of the Sardaukar Army, which is reputed to be the deadliest army in existence. The doctor gives Paul a medication back in Arrakis to deal with his allergies. Paul is unaware that the doctor has a connivance with Baron, and the medication will render him comatose. Additionally, Leto and Jessica receive medication to help them sleep. Leto declines, but Jessica accepts it. After some time, they are attacked by Sardaukar's army. Leto discovers what is going on as he wakes up. However, the doctor strikes him with a dart before he can take action, gradually rendering him comatose. The army of Sardaukar causes chaos outside, surprising the army of Atreides with their actions. The Sardaukar quickly defeat the Atreides because they are twice as numerous and equipped with multiple weapons. because they are twice as numerous and equipped with multiple weapons. Concurrently, the medical professional informs an injured Leto that Baron has kidnapped his spouse, so he must follow his instructions. Then, in order to give Leto's ring to Paul, the doctor removes it. In addition, he implants a poisoned molar tooth in Leto's jaw, warning that if he bites it hard enough, the gas-filled tooth will release a deadly venom that will kill everyone in its path. Paul and Jessica are kidnapped by the Sardaukar army and dumped in the sand in the meantime. In an airplane, Paul awakens to find his mother strapped to his side and gagged. She has the ability to control others and force them to follow her instructions. Thus, the two are able to slay their kidnappers by using their powers. Paul discovers a Frem kit that the doctor has given them. They then make their way out of the center of the desert. Leto is brought to Baron unconscious and is changed into nothing in the meanwhile. When the doctor begs Baron to set his wife go, he is ruthlessly murdered instead. Leto is then informed by Baron that his lineage will cease today. With nowhere else to go, Leto clenches his jaws and releases a deadly gas that kills everyone in the room, including himself. Paul and Jessica use the kit to erect a tent somewhere. They also discover Leto's ring and a doctor's note. When they look at the ring, the two become aware that Leto has passed away and start to cry. Duncan invites the Fremen Imperial biologist Kynes to assist in the search for Paul and Jessica the next morning. Once the deadly gas has subsided, the soldier of the Baron returns to the room in his palace. They discover to their surprise that Baron has secured himself to the ceiling and is in some way secure. Concurrently, Paul experiences a hallucinogenic high from the spice in the sand and begins to have glimpses of the impending holy war. When he visualizes himself murdering millions of people, he starts to hyperventilate. A concerned Jessica soothes her kid. He dons his father's ring and becomes Duke of Atreides at a later date. Duncan finds them quickly and kneels in front of Paul, addressing him as the Lord Duke. Then Kynes takes the three of them to a secure location. The location where they are residing is an abandoned ecological station that was meant to supply Arrakis with flowing water. Arrakis would have been a paradise if the initiative had been successful, but the spice was found in the sand before the project was finished. The endeavor was abandoned when everyone's focus was shifted to gathering the priceless spice. The Sardaukar army arrives in the secure area later and launches an all-out assault on everyone. Duncan risks his life to keep Jessica and Paul alive. Paul tells him to stop since he has seen Duncan die in a vision, but Duncan refuses to move in order to carry out his mission. He is ultimately slain in battle against the soldiers, but Jessica, Paul, and Kynes escape. Paul and Jessica board a small aircraft with just 2 seats. Kynes, in the meantime, requests that they travel south to see the Fremen, who will support them in their cause. She intends to leave one station and board a plane. The mother and boy take out, but the Sardaukar soldiers quickly catch Kynes. She starts to pound the ground rhythmically, indicating that they are preparing to kill her. A sandworm comes in, attracted by the ruckus, and devours them all at once. 2 enemy aircraft then begin pursuing Paul's aircraft. Paul drives into a violent sandstorm, leading their adversaries to assume they had perished. In the scene that follows, we witness Baron taking a medicinal bath to treat the wounds he sustained from the toxic gas. When his nephew Rabban gets there, he informs him that Leto has passed away, along with his lineage. Satisfied that his adversary's house has finally collapsed, Baron gives Rabban the command to carry on gathering spices and eliminating all Fremen. Paul and Jessica crash land in the desert somewhere else, but they survive. After donning the desert suit, they set out to find the Fremen and request assistance from them. Paul was aware of the lifestyles of the Fremen and how they walk to keep the worms away. Throughout the entire day that they walk, Paul sees images of Fremen people and a particular girl encouraging him to keep going. The two take a little break to rest when they hear a loud noise. Paul becomes aware of the presence of a sandworm. They begin to flee in an attempt to save their lives, but the worm follows them even more quickly. It appears from the sand, ready to swallow the two, but it stops in the middle. To aid them, someone had set off a thumper. At that moment, They are surrounded by Stilgar, the leader of the Fremen. It soon becomes clear that their goal is to murder Paul and Jessica in order to obtain their bodily fluids. Saying that Paul is the Messiah they were informed about, Stilgar stops his troops. The others reject him, claiming that since Paul hasn't shown his mettle thus far, he can't be the Messiah. Jessica is insulted by one of them, who calls her weak and old. By keeping the man captive and putting his life in danger, she establishes her own worth. The leader then gives the order for everyone to proceed to the Shechtaber, where Paul and Jessica's destiny will be decided. The girl from Paul's dreams suddenly appears in front of him and calls herself Chani. One Fremen, Jameis, insists on facing Paul in a duel as they are about to depart. According to Fremen custom, a person must die in every duel. Having trained all of his life, Paul easily defeats Jameis, but he is hesitant to murder him because he has never killed anyone before. Finally, Paul ends the struggle by stabbing the man to death. After that, the others load up the corpse and head toward the Shechtaber. When Paul witnesses a man riding a huge sandworm at the end of the film, Chani informs him that this is just the beginning. It's evident from the film's conclusion that the sequels will contain a lot more content.